Welcome to the Mount Pleasant podcast, featuring discussions and interviews about the people, places, and events that make Mount Pleasant such a special place.
This is the Mount Pleasant podcast. I'm your host, Brian Cleary, and all thanks to the great people of Mount Pleasant Magazine, I get the honor, the privilege of introducing you to Mount Pleasant, the people who make it such a special place to do business, to work, and even to live. We're introducing you to Mount Pleasant's best on the Mount Pleasant podcast. You and I, we live in a growing community here in Mount Pleasant, and you don't need to see statistics or read a newspaper article, see it on the news to know that. And not just with people coming to live in Mount Pleasant, and why not, but about businesses as well. Businesses are growing in Mount Pleasant, and as Mount Pleasant grows, so does Mount Pleasant Magazine, and so does Mount Pleasant Podcast. And I'm Brian Cleary, and on Mount Pleasant Podcast today, we're going to introduce you to something new. It's called Growing with Mount Pleasant. We'll be talking with new business owners, folks who are starting their businesses here in the Lowcountry, and we're proud to have our first Growing with Mount Pleasant episode feature this gentleman. Tim Myers is the owner of First Choice Air, Heating, Plumbing, and Gas. Tim, let's start with this. You started a business in Mount Pleasant. What made you decide to start First Choice AC?
So I've been doing heating and air conditioning for 25 plus years now. And we always know there's a need for customers to have the very best service, to have the very best people, and to be able to be depending, on having service when they need it. So with that being said, I opened the company with the intention of being able to give people the very best that they could possibly ask for or imagine, and also to give people a place to work that they could feel like they're part of a team.
Well, let me start with this because we're at that time of the year. I'm starting to think about, going to be running my air conditioning now. So if you wouldn't mind, let me dip into your expertise a little bit. Tell me one or two things that a homeowner or somebody who runs their air conditioning, what do we need to know and what is it we should be looking out for?
One thing you need to be able to do is make sure that your filters are changed. So you need to check those at least every 30 days because that can definitely cause a problem with airflow. And also in turn, that will cause other problems with the system and cause it to not work properly. And that's just something minor that a homeowner can check easily and make sure that it's good to go every month. Another thing is to keep in mind that in our climate here in the Charleston area, we have a lot of humidity. And that systems are designed to run and maintain a 75-degree temperature on a 92-degree day. So once we start turning our thermostats down much lower than 75 degrees, we will actually start creating more humidity in the home than the system's able to remove.
Sometimes I think people think, you go to Walmart, you go to an electronics store, and you buy a toaster or whatever it is, and they'll say, hey, do you want to buy this warranty with it? And then I see HVAC companies, and they will have service plans. From what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's a big difference from somebody who buys a warranty where you go, that's ripping me off. Service plan, that's it. Am I correct? That's an entirely different ballgame.
The service plan is entirely different than a warranty. With the service plan, it's going to be the same as just as if you were going to take your car in to get the oil changed. And when they do that oil change, they check over the brakes, the tires, the windshield wipers, air filters, and so on and so forth. Because if they run across anything during that visit, they're going to be able to tell you ahead of time of a potential breakdown or something that could happen with your system. And as many hours as our systems run here, it is so important that we keep them maintained and keep them checked on a regular basis.
So with 25 years in the business, let me ask you about this. Somebody is looking to hire First Choice AC. They're looking for an HVAC company. What is it, as me, as the homeowner, as the owner of that AC unit, what do you think it is that I should be asking that company? What do I need to know about you before I hire you?
Are we licensed and insured? Which the answer to that is yes. Experience, you want to know that we have enough experience to take care of that. A lot of times it's not just the heating and AC system that we look at. We'll look at the home, we'll look at the insulation, we'll look at, the windows and window coverings and things like that, because all of that is a big factor that, your heating and AC system rolls into, because depending on how your home is laid out and how your system is installed and how it's sized and your ductwork and airflow, and I could go on and on with that, it's very important to know that you have someone coming into your home that can see these things and go above and beyond just looking at a box inside and a box outside.
Podcasting has exploded in popularity, especially local podcasts. As of 2022, 62% of Americans have listened to a podcast. 38% have listened in the last month. 26% in the last week. The podcasting audience is booming with no signs of slowing down. Call the podcast hotline to be featured on these podcasts or to receive information about podcast marketing. Call 843-530-0403 or visit carolinapodcasts.com.
You're listening to the Mount Pleasant Podcast.
Thanks so much for being a part of the Mount Pleasant Podcast and joining us today. This is where the pages of Mount Pleasant Magazine come alive. The Mount Pleasant Podcast with me, Brian Cleary. This is our Growing with Mount Pleasant segment as we introduce you to some of the newer businesses that have been set up here in the town of Mount Pleasant. And one of those is First Choice AC, Heating, Plumbing, and Gas. And Tim Myers is our guest. Tim is the owner. He's got more than 25 years experience in HVAC. So Tim, let me put it to you this way. First Choice AC, what is it that makes you different? Give me a great reason why I should pick up the phone and call you for my AC needs.
We are one of the most honest companies in the area that you could ever ask for. We are always on time. We always do the right thing. We always take care of the customer to the highest level. And we're not there to sell anything to anyone. We're there to provide honest solutions to existing problems.
So let's take through, because you've got AC, you've got heating, plumbing, and gas, all things that have to do with your house. And let's stipulate, when we talk about gas, we're not talking about filling up the pickup truck, right? We're talking about
exactly.
So, all right. So we've talked a little bit about HVAC on the AC side. Talk to me about heating. What is it I should know about heating, and how can you help me?
So heating, we only have a few months out of the year. One thing to know is that if you have a heat pump, which majority of the systems in our area are heat pumps, there's usually two sources of heat. One being the outdoor unit, the heat pump, and the other being the indoor heat strips. So during heating season, it's common for people to not even know their system's not operating properly until they get their electric bill, because the heat strips kick on, it raises your utilities tremendously.
So let's look at the plumbing side. There's a lot of HVAC companies out there. Not many of them offer plumbing services. Some do. You do as well. How is it that you got into plumbing, and what is it that you can offer folks from a plumbing angle?
So we got into plumbing because every time we were needing someone to refer out for plumbing, we couldn't find anybody that would show up or that was dependable. So we decided that it would be best if we could offer the same type of dependability and comfort to the customers for plumbing as we did for heating and air. So we started a plumbing division, and we've taken off from there. So now we're able to offer more services to customers without them having to go somewhere else and wonder if they're going to get the same quality service.
And the fourth of those things in terms of services you offer has to do with gas. This, of course, would be natural gas. Give me some ideas, though, because I don't think everybody goes things in my house. What is it that you can provide people?
So when it comes to the gas, we have one of the best gas guys working for us in the Low Country. And what he does is he does gas lantern maintenance. He does fireplace cleanings. He does fire features outside. We take care of a lot of the old historic buildings downtown when it comes to their gas appliances and their gas lanterns on the exterior. So most of those are being maintained or serviced by our company.
And I mentioned before about service plans. From what I understand with First Choice AC, heating, plumbing, and gas, you have what's called the My Choice service plan. Can you explain what that is?
So My Choice service plan it's a plan where we'll come out to your home twice per year. We'll check your systems out. During each visit, we go ahead and clear the drain lines while we're out there. We just check for anything that might be out of factory specification. We check for dirty equipment, and we also check for the situations or issues that may have occurred throughout the year, anything that might be coming apart. again, it's kind of like an oil change in your car where you just want to keep it serviced and maintained. And if we find anything, we'll let you know what we find. That way you can prepare for the future.
So, Tim, with those kind of businesses or those kind of visits with your business, once a year is fine? Is twice the optimum number? And does that twice mean, hey, I got to come out every 6 months? Or is it just, hey, I crank up the AC in May, so I want you to come in April, but then September is fine? Is it that fine of a science? What's the optimum for me as a consumer?
The optimum would be twice per year, and we would do a heating check and we would do a cooling check. So when it's too warm out, we're not going to be able to do a very accurate heating check on the system. And same thing when it's too cold out, we can't do a very good cooling check on the system. So we really need to try to do 2 checks per year, once when the cooling is active and then once when the heating is active as well, so we can get proper measurements and readings.
You've logged on to the Mount Pleasant podcast. This is where the pages of Mount Pleasant Magazine come alive, and this is our Growing with Mount Pleasant segment. I'm Brian Cleary, and today I'm joined by Tim Meyer. Tim is the owner of First Choice AC, Heating, Plumbing, and Gas. We all know that Mount Pleasant is a growing community, lots of people coming here, more people, more businesses, more services that we need. Now, Tim, you came here from Indiana. What is it that made you end up in the Low Country here in Mount Pleasant?
I came down here to visit some family members, and I just enjoyed the area and the beauty of the Low Country. And so I decided to stay.
Now, here in terms of yourself, let's get to know you a little bit. You married, kids, dogs, cats? What is it for you?
I have one little dog, and I have one 8-year-old little girl. I'm not married.
And coming from Indiana, does that mean we have to tag you Indianapolis Colts or Indianapolis Pacers? Or are you saying, no, I'm a Panthers, I'm a Gamecock guy? What's that all about?
I'm pretty neutral when it comes to that. So if there's a tailgate going on, then that's something I'd be ready to do.
Now, is it true you have some special skills? Somebody told me that the designs that are on your vehicles were actually your creation.
Yes. So all of our vehicle designs, uniform designs, everything, the name from start to finish, took some time. But yes, we did sit down and try to create something that would be appealing to the community. We didn't want to have the same colors, the same everything that everyone else had in the area. We wanted to stand out because we are the best company in the area. So we wanted people to know who we were and what we looked like.
And is it true that you, I don't know if this would be considered a chef, but you have your own spice rubs and recipes and things like that?
I do, yes. So on my off time, my spare time, I like to create my own meals. And that goes anywhere from creating my own sauces to smoking beef and pork and chicken to creating my own rubs. And that's what I enjoy to do on my off time.
So where does that come from? Because I think people would look, an HVAC guy is numbers and all that kind of stuff. This is some serious creativity you got going on the side. What's the inspiration for that?
One of the big inspirations is that I like to see people happy. So when people are smiling, they're having a good time, they're gathering and just enjoying, being around each other, that makes me happy. So I want to be able to create foods and, have get-togethers and cookouts and just bring people together and just see the happiness that they have.
So when I get the next email invite from Tim Myers, big party at my house, what is it? What's your go-to? What are you going to be serving up that's just really going to knock me out?
I can do just about anything, but probably some nice brisket sandwiches.
Nice. I am in. Now, you mentioned the fact that obviously your company, you're based here, you're all about customer service. One of the things in growing with Mount Pleasant that we also like to highlight, not only the fact that you've started a business here, but you're employing people. How many employees did you have? And tell me about some of the people that work for you.
So there's 11 of us right now, and we just continue to grow. One of my guys has been with me throughout the years, doing the gas work. He's been around for 15 years and kind of followed me wherever I've went. another young man that works here with us. He had started his own company and actually came over here to work with us because we're a team. And so I've got some really great guys here, and they care about the people that they service. They care about each other here as a team, and they're just fantastic. I mean, they all have the same mentality of being a great person and also taking care of the people to the best of their abilities. And that starts from the ladies in here that answer the phone. They are fantastic, and that's where it all starts.
It's people that you want to be working with, and it's great to know that not only have you created a new business here in the Mount Pleasant area, but also 11 employees. That's 11 jobs for folks that are in our community. It's making a difference. First Choice AC, heating, plumbing, and gas. Tim, if somebody wants to get in touch with you to talk business, what's the best way for them to do that?
So you can send us an email. You can go online to our website at firstchoiceforac.com. You can give us a call at 843-518-1479.
And when I get you on the phone, if I ask you a little brisket tip question, you're okay with that as well?
Absolutely. We'll be happy to do it.
And remember, when you go onto that website, it's not FIRST, but the number 1 ST, correct?
Yes, exactly. It's 1 ST.
And how long have you had the business open here in Mount Pleasant?
Just a little over 2 years now.
And we're looking to keep it growing, and that's why we invited you to be a part of it today. Growing with Mount Pleasant. It's part of the Mount Pleasant podcast. That's part of the Mount Pleasant magazine family. We are happy to highlight the individuals, the businesses, the folks who are making a difference and giving back to our community. They're customer focused. They are concerned about you, keeping you warm, keeping you cool, keeping you safe inside your house. It's First Choice AC, heating, plumbing, and gas. Tim Myers, thanks so much for taking the time to share everything about your business with us.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. We appreciate you having us today.
We appreciate you taking the time, and thank you for joining us, me, Brian Cleary, today on the Mount Pleasant Podcast.
Thanks for spending your time with the Mount Pleasant Podcast, your community, your podcast. Listen to past and future episodes at mountpleasantpodcast.com.